And I remember having that conversation with my manager. He would turn to me and very, specifically say, Peggy, do you have something to add to this? And it gave me that opening in the conversation to get my point of view across.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of On Purpose, where I interview intriguing leaders about their purpose. Today, I'm joined by CEO of Magic Leap, Peggy Johnson, and my fellow board member at BlackRock. Welcome, Peggy.
Thanks, Kristin. Thanks for having me.
One of the things that I find so compelling about your leadership is being raised in a very large family. So tell me what that was like.
I was the second youngest of a family of 8 kids. And when I was very young, my father passed away and my mom remarried a man who had 7 kids. And so we all grew up in the same house.
So you had like a school bus as your family transportation, or?
It was like 3 cars. We could really never go anywhere together. It was always about 3 cars. And, but there was every type of personality in that family. And so I just got used to dealing with all different characters. And I think that has really had a big impact on how I lead today.
Tell me how you became interested in technology.
I had a job on campus and I was delivering mail one day. And I happened to deliver some mail to the engineering department. And there were 2 ladies who were behind the desk there when I came down the hallway. And they said, "Are you here to talk about engineering?" And I said, "No, I don't really even know what engineering is." And they talked me into, in the space of about 15 minutes, changing my major. I changed it the next day and off I went into engineering school.
Well, I think you were a pioneer for many women in tech, and you had a phenomenal career at Qualcomm, then went to Microsoft, I think, for 6 years and was a rock star there, leading their business development. And you got a knock on your door about a potential opportunity as CEO of Magic Leap. Tell me what went through your mind when you got that call and what made you want to join.
I think the big factor for me was it was the middle of the pandemic, and it was actually the start of the pandemic. And my job as head of business development came to a screeching halt. Nobody was flying, nobody wanted to see anybody in person. And it just got me thinking, I've always wanted to, take the next step and become a CEO. And when this job became open, I very intentionally raised my hand and said, I want to go do that. I love the space. I thought the company was really had some wonderful tech. It's something called augmented reality, where it's a headset you put on, you still see your world around you, and they very intelligently put digital content in your field of view. They originally had been focused on the consumer aspect of it, and I think it was a little too early for consumer. My plan was to pivot it to enterprise, which I did after I started. I felt like there's, the world is telling me there's a pandemic, you got to go make a change. And so I jumped.
We leveraged the technology, the AR technology, to do installations of our bio devices in foreign countries where we couldn't get people in. But talk to me about leading and transforming a company in a technology that really was transforming the way work was being done.
I mean, there was quite a bit of change management. Some people came to the company for the consumer focus, for sort of the gaming element to it, the creative element. So a lot of it was really drawing the line for folks about the outcomes, and took a little time, but now they're a marching army toward enterprise use cases.
What do you think we need to do as leaders to attract more women and, importantly, to retain more women in STEM type roles?
Yeah, to attract them, I think really what needs to be done is what those 2 ladies did to me. They really showed me what a degree in engineering could do. They started to make it real for me. And I think we should do more of that. I think everyone can be good in math and science. And it's about how you're trained on it and how you're educated that really makes the difference. And then to retain, I think it has to be an environment where you can feel most comfortable in. And for me, the early days of engineering were tough. I was in rooms typically with all men. It was hard for me to speak up in a crowd like that. And I remember having that conversation with my manager at Qualcomm and saying, I think I'm going to leave the field like so many other women have. I just don't feel like I'm contributing enough. And he's the one who realized, there's just needs to be more openings for you in those meetings. And he started to, as he termed it, throw me the ball. So he would turn to me and very, specifically say, Peggy, do you have something to add to this? And it gave me that opening in the conversation to get my point of view across.
The other thing I want to say is you're also a very good customer for Zoetis. What do you think the potential is for augmented reality to help those pets?
That's a great question because we're just starting down that road. In fact, we've got an engagement with the San Diego Zoo right now where they're using it on their local scientists as they're, examining an animal, where a scientist from across the country or across the world can see what they see, and particularly these animals, which obviously oftentimes are rare. But I think going forward, it would be just as easy to introduce in a small dog clinic. So it is the next frontier that we're just starting in, actually in the past few months, starting to introduce.
Well, thank you for being a role model for women in business, but certainly women in tech. And thank you so much for joining me today, Peggy.
Thanks for having me, Kristin. It was a lot of fun.
And thank you for joining us on Purpose. We look forward to seeing you next time.